Hey everybody, Derek here to bring you another video for the Walking Dead countdown to the start of Season 6. And what I'm going to do today is a prediction video for Abraham and Rosita. Basically giving my thoughts on some predictions for the characters in Season 6, some storylines that they may use for the characters, and a little bit about their relationship. How will their relationship progress, or will they break up? Will some things happen? And I'm going to give my thoughts on that. This will include some spoilers from the comics, so if you are not familiar with the comics and you do not want to be spoiled, don't watch the video or else you will be spoiled. Okay, so when we last left Abraham and Rosita, there wasn't really too much going on with their own characters in general in regards to each other. They were still on pretty good terms. The season 5 saw a little bit of a challenge between them. When Abraham started to get very angry and forceful about them moving forward, using violent means in order to, get the group going, and even, whenever he knocked out Eugene and almost killed him, was definitely a shock to Rosita and definitely something that, she never saw in Abraham before. And it took a little bit of time for the two to reconcile. And when we last saw them together, Rosita had knocked the silverware down on the floor in order to get Eugene to wake up, so the two, Abraham and Eugene could forgive each other. So, they seem to patch that over a little bit. But what are some things that we may, be looking forward to for the characters in season 6? Well, first, I don't think their relationship is going to last. And I get that information from the comics. I think that it's something that will bring more story to both of the characters. Because one of the things that you have a concern about with having a lot of characters is what kind of stories are you going to bring them? And Rosita is not necessarily the most central character on the show. So anything that they can do for her is definitely very good. I think Rosita is a great character. And, it would be nice to see a little bit more of her in season 6 and to have her develop a little bit, because she really hasn't developed in a sense. She's really been about the same person throughout all of her time on the show. Nothing major has happened to her. And I think that season 6 could provide that opportunity. In the comics, when Abraham and Rosita get to the Alexandria safe zone with Rick's group, Abraham, like in the TV show as well, becomes a part of the construction crew. And, the construction crew was also something that a woman named Holly was a part of. Now, there has been a mention of a Holly in the TV show. Whether she will be, a central character or not has been, yet to be confirmed. But one of the things that we saw was it would seem that Francine, the woman that Abraham saved in that episode Spend, may be the TV show equivalent of Holly. They definitely look very similar. Holly has shorter hair, Francine has shorter hair. Even though Holly is blonde and, Francine is a brunette, I don't think it's going to cause, that much of a problem. I mean, after all, Jessie in the comics is a brunette, and in the TV show, she's blonde. So, there's always differences amongst the characters. And, part of me thinks that maybe some of the things that are going to happen in season 6, may revolve a little bit more around Abraham, Rosita, and Francine, and the relationships between all of them. Like in the comics, Abraham saves Holly in the comics in a similar way that he saved Francine in the television show. And that may be, the start of something that, like a connection where maybe Francine will have a discussion with Abraham, thanking him. We really don't know the extent yet. And maybe they've already had that conversation, but, I think that since Abraham saved her, I think that there is going to be somewhat of a connection between Abraham and Holly. Excuse me, Abraham and Francine. Which may be explored a little bit more in season 6. So I think that they are going to go that route because it definitely changes Abraham's character it changes Rosita's character a little bit, make her a little more independent, have her figure out things for herself. Maybe she becomes a stronger character. There are lots of things that, come about from that. And in the comics, there really isn't a lot of in-depth detail into what happens. I mean, basically, after Abraham saves Holly, at some point off of the comic book strips, we don't really get to see their relationship at first, but there are subtle signs that Holly and Abraham have been together, and in the comics, it's they let it known that they slept with each other, and Rosita, finds that out after the safe zone has been cleared of the walkers, because the walkers do invade the safe zone in volume 14, and in volume 15, the two separate. And a lot of things come about from that. Obviously Rosita in many ways is very heartbroken that their relationship has fallen apart, and Abraham in a way, comes off as being the bad guy in this because he does leave Rosita. And what happens here is it says, this is exactly what he says to Rosita in the comics. I'm quoting right here. He said, "I'm not sorry for cheating on you with Holly. I'm sorry that I hurt you in the process. After my wife died, you were there for me. I appreciate that. And for a time, you were what I needed. But I always found myself thinking, what if you aren't the last woman on earth? And well, you're not." And I think that there's a lot of things that, can be traced to this. It is clear that, Abraham, like in the TV show, he does lose his wife and his children after he kills the men that raped his wife. And what ends up happening is, in the TV show, Abraham runs into Eugene, and the two were together by themselves for a little while, and then they eventually run into Rosita and the other groups. And that's the thing is, at the time, Rosita was really the only available woman. And I think that, Abraham was hurting, obviously, after losing his wife and child. Excuse me, and children. He has two children. And, when people suffer a loss, there are many different coping methods that can be used in order to help them cope with the loss. And in Abraham's position, finding a new woman that kind of replaces his wife was potentially a coping mechanism that he used. And in Rosita, he found that. I think that you find that Rosita is a very nurturing type of woman. She's a lot of different things. She is tough. Otherwise, she wouldn't be alive. But I do think that she has that very soft, nurturing side that Abraham needed at the time to overcome the death of his wife. And I think that that is something that she has been. But, when Abraham thinks about it, and this may be revealed in the TV show as well, that he's always known in the back of his head that maybe if he met somebody that fit more of his qualities, that maybe he would realize that, him and Rosita really are not, the couple destined for marriage and children and all that in this world. He doesn't see it maybe as a lifelong commitment. And I think that what we're going to see in season 6 is Abraham starting to be, exposed a little bit more to Francine, and, as a result of this, realizes that she is more of the woman that he is looking for, or that what he needs at the time. Maybe Abraham will never commit again to a woman, but I think that people need different kinds of people for different reasons. That's just the way we are. As humans, we're very social, and we look to our parents for something different than our siblings, or our girlfriend to be something different than our best friend, etc. And I think that Abraham, in a way, kind of sees that with women. That maybe he sees Rosita as the type of person that he needed right after his wife died, but now he wants something different. And Francine may be that. I think that they will start to get closer, Abraham and Francine, as they go out on the construction crew. I think we will see more of that. And there is something that I think that they will play upon in the comics into the TV show. And this is, again, another spoiler. But in the TV show and in the comics, there is a character named Bruce. Now, in the comics, Bruce is like, he has a big beard and like a longer hair. Whereas here in the TV show, Bruce was the guy that had to send the fax to Cleveland. He was that guy. And in the comics, Bruce ends up getting bitten by a walker during the time that the walkers were really getting more in, there were more walkers coming along the walls, surrounding them. A lot of them were there, and Bruce ends up getting bitten. Now, he gets bitten in the neck or the shoulder area, so it's not something that they can save. Pardon the rain. Sorry, it's raining up here where I'm at. But what ends up happening is, Bruce gets bitten, and there's nothing that anybody can do for him, so Abraham puts him out of his misery. And I think that that may be something that Abraham is going to have to do in this upcoming, season. I think it would definitely do some things for the character because it was definitely a very shocking moment. And I think that it would, hit a shock value for the Alexandria residents that, oh, we're still not really used to death at this point. Even though they have been really getting hit hard with death with, Aiden and Pete and Reg, I think that that doesn't, preclude the possibility that other people will die. And it's not something that I think that they're used to. And I think that when they see Abraham putting down Bruce, it's going to be something that is very shocking and upsetting to them. But, it may be something that brings Abraham and Francine closer in a sense. Holly says that Bruce is a friend of hers in the comics, and that may be true in the TV show as well, that Francine is a friend of Bruce's. And, that may weigh on you, that may weigh on Abraham in a different way, that he may be feeling a lot of different things about why he did what he did. And I think that one of the things that we're going to see in season 6 is the two getting closer because of certain circumstances happening. The fact that they are in the community together, the fact that they are going out on the construction crew, that is something that I think is going to bring them closer together. And I think that Abraham is the kind of person that, maybe would want something different. And because he's going to see that in Francine, that's also going to give some interesting story because, it might be a little bit of a debate about do I go with Rosita or do I go with Francine? And who knows, he might not get either one of them, or he might end up with Rosita again. There are a lot of different possibilities that could happen that they could change the story a little bit with. But I think that it is an essential story that they do need to include in the television show at some point, whether it's in the first half of the season or the second half, where it plays along the entire way. I think that is something that they do need to focus on. You do run the risk of not giving Rosita or Abraham enough time if you don't include that story, I think. So I think that they will play that story out. I think that there will be a love triangle going on there, and we'll basically see what ends up happening. Will Abraham go with Rosita or will he go with Francine? I don't know. But I think that that is something that will play out, and I think it's necessary. So that's what I have for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. If you guys have any suggestions that you would like to see, don't be afraid to leave them in the comments. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and thank you very much for watching.